Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Brandon, your trusted realtor, and I'm coming to you with another amazing episode. I actually today have the pleasure of talking to Keith Hasan Towery, who is a Ward 7, just all things, all purpose superhero, activist,
Oh,
liaison. So thank you, Keith, for taking the time to be with us today. How are you?
I'm doing good, Brandon. Thank you, man. I'm honored just to sit on the phone with you today and to be able to talk. And look, I thought I went ahead and made
See,
everything silent.
see how popular he is, ladies and gentlemen? The community needs you. Well, thanks so much for taking a moment. Today, I know you have your hands in a lot of different pots as it relates to DC, but specifically related to Ward 7. And one of the things that I pride myself on talking to people about on this channel is really demystify the home buying process. And one huge part of the home buying process is understanding what changes are occurring in the community, what changes not only are occurring in the communities, but programs and different types of access that is going to be available right now or sometime in the future. And that access, whether it's material, whether it's commercial, etc., will play a huge stamp in the values present and future of lots of homeowners and whether we want to acknowledge it or not. And I'm probably scapegoating around a word that we all have heard before. It's gentrification. And when it comes, we all understand how DC is evolving and has evolved. And as you all know, I made no secret that I live in Ward 7 and I'm active in this community. And so one of the pleasures that we have and one of the subjects that we're going to tackle today, well, not even really tackle because it's on a hill, so we'll just talk about it, which is Fletcher Johnson. And that's a huge project that you have been involved in since what, like 62? No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, there's some little grays and white coming. It could be 1962, but no. Honestly, the community has been fighting the Fletcher Johnson fight ever since it closed in 2008. I was fortunate to be trained under some of the leaders that are still within the movement, and I became very active in 2016.
So, what motivated you to get started with Fletcher Johnson and that project? So, well, actually, before we get started there, can you give a bit of an introduction about Fletcher Johnson? Like, who is Fletcher Johnson, or what is Fletcher Johnson for anyone who's like, say, a new person to either DC or Ward 7?
Okay. I can always be like, damn, how much time we got, right? Because it's such an incredible story. But I'm going to touch on some high points on it, right? So before it even became Fletcher Johnson, I have to tell people it used to be a cemetery. It was called Payne Cemetery, and it was one of the few cemeteries within the District of Columbia that was really dedicated to allowing Black folks to bury their loved ones. It was Payne Cemetery from about the 1800s to about like the late 1950s. At that point, the community started to notice that the cemetery was a little bit ran down. A lot of people in the community was using it for other nefarious reasons. Some people, even who didn't have the money to bury their loved ones, they kind of went there and made their own makeshift graves for some of their loved ones to bury there. So, it kind of got a little out of hand. So the community asked the city if they could work really hard to create like a community center and an educational campus for people in the community. So in about like the late 1960s, work started to happen around this. They developed something they called the Committee of 21 that looked at all of the things that the community wanted to do, education wise at least. And they came up with the idea to create a educational campus and also a community recreation space. So they got to work, and by 1977, Fletcher Johnson opened up. Uh, Fletcher Johnson was probably one of the biggest schools at the time. When it first opened up, it was servicing elementary and middle school. What's always so crazy, right? Because in our area, we have two elementary schools that still exist. We have J.C. Null and we have C.W. Harris. But what made Fletcher Johnson a kind of a unique spot was that there were a lot of new apartment buildings being constructed in the neighborhood, and the new rental units created a higher demand for more educational opportunities for younger youth. So even though we've already had those two existing elementary schools, having Fletcher Johnson there was able to take off more burden from J.C. Nolan, C.W. Harris, and also the other cities like Benning Terrace, also known as Simple City, and the former site of Eastgate, which is now the Glencrest community. The school was operational up until 2008. Like many schools that are unfortunately in areas that have high violence or a prevalence of high drug activity. Some of those students, were chemically dependent. Unfortunately, and that also reflected some of their test scores. Although the students at Fletcher Johnson, they tell you like they're some survivors and they're very intelligent. But I think overall the city saw that. They saw the decreased test numbers. They saw the decreased enrollment as well. And they thought it would be best if they would close it officially. So it closed 2008. And then H.D. Wilson, which is a high school we have here in Ward 7, that needed to have some renovations. So while that was under renovations, they moved H.D. Wilson to the Fletcher Johnson campus. And they stayed in there to approximately, I think, 2012. And then at that point, the building became completely vacant. I will also be remiss if I didn't mention that Fletcher Johnson, wasn't just a school or even a recreational space for communities. It has so many programs there. They had a health clinic, and they also, did a lot of community events there as well. So when it officially closed its doors in 2012, it was hurtful for the community, and it was just this big building. Like it sits on 15.26 acres of land. It's literally the fourth largest undeveloped piece of property here in the District of Columbia. And the community wanted to see some more economic development take place. They wanted to see some grocery stores, maybe urgent care, a community art space, just something that's gonna sustain a community for the next 20 to 30 years. And I think the city wanted to maybe turn it into a charter school. And many people didn't want to see that. So the community banded together. They asked the deputy mayor for education to consider, turn it into an economic vehicle for our community. They didn't see that right away, but by 2017, 18, they saw that, and they finally released the property to the deputy mayor for planning and economic development. And now we're in a situation now where the property has been sold, or it's in the process of being disposed of to Grey Cardona Partners, so it can actually be economic vehicle for our community.
And thanks for taking the time to really deconstruct and peel back the layers of that onion as it relates to the history of Fletcher Johnson and what not only the history, but what that history has meant to the community. And if we can kind of indulge for a moment, some of the things I took away from just hearing the story was that when the Fletcher Johnson initially opened, it served as a beacon to create not only to reduce congestion, but as a beacon of economic opportunity to draw in more families because more development was being made. And I think this is, to everyone listening, that's imperative to really an indication of where there's construction or where there's development, there's opportunity. And there's a level of attraction. And even then, that facility not only brought in development, but it created a sense of culture. And would you say that culture, whether those plays, those events, whether they were monthly, annually, band events, sock hops, whatever they were, would you say just having experience with that, they served as a vehicle to bring the community as like a unifying place, almost like a church, if you will, like a church serves to bring people together? Did Fletcher Johnson play that role in this community in Ward 7?
Oh yeah, that and some. You can't talk about Fletcher Johnson without like talking about like what is Fletcher Johnson, like who is Fletcher Johnson. A lot of people think that's like one person, but it's actually a combination of two people's names. There was a lady named Miss Evelyn Fletcher. She worked in DC public schools for like half a century. She taught a lot of demonstration lessons like for new teachers in the city, and like she was very active in the community. And also the Johnson portion of it come from Philip T. Johnson. and he was a native Washingtonian from Northeast DC. He was a teacher. He was also very active in the community, and he served like several offices like throughout the DC Board of Education, and also he was like the chairman of the Urban League Education Committee for a while. You know, like they named the school intentionally after these people because they knew that this was going to be a big like civic center in the community, and they got the right principal to take care of it. Dr. Rutherford, you'll hear people call him Doc all the time, and seriously, it was a hub. Anything that would place, people have birthday parties at Fletcher Johnson. You know, people will just hang out there after school if people didn't feel, you know, maybe safe in their immediate community. You know, they had safety and refuge there at Fletcher Johnson. It was the place. Government meetings would happen in Fletcher Johnson. You know, it's funny, like some of the students tell me too, they remember when you know, former Mayor Marion Barry would come and teach classes. He used to teach chemistry at Fletcher Johnson just to, you know, do it, you know. So like it was literally like this place where if you had something going on in the community, especially respecting that here in Ward 7, we tend not to have a lot of community space, unfortunately. You know, we use what we have, but they will always open their doors for the community so they can come out. Daycare, it was daycare at Fletcher Johnson. Like Fletcher Johnson was that spot.
And has that been replaced in the community? And I also I think that creates a very interesting discussion around economic development. Once something's taken away from the community, have you found in your tenure here, or even in your discussions, that that's been replaced in the community, or that there's another entity that really has filled that need?
I mean, I think they try, right? You know, let me not shade anybody that's listening, and they be like, "Oh, Keith and Marshall Heights gonna say like, oh, ever since Fletcher Johnson's left, nobody's doing anything, or there's no spaces for us." You know, we've we started from a deficit, right? And when we got Fletcher Johnson, that probably made us somewhat close to being whole, right? We still have like church spaces here in the community where they do often open their doors. We frequently utilize that library, which is actually very important because of the internet access that they provide to our residents here in the community. And we do have the Bennett Park Recreation Center now, which is being renamed the Woody Ward Recreation Center that people do utilize too. But from what I hear from people, especially people who live in the Glencrest community and other places throughout Marshall Heights, is that when Fletcher Johnson left, it literally left a big deficit for us to just even have like adequate meeting spaces for community events.
And it's so important to really, when you think about economic development and think about community, there's an intrinsic connection between development and culture. Being able to, when actions are taken, whether that is the creation or the removal of a facility, especially a public space, what impact does that have on the culture of the life force of the community? Which I think is a really good transition or pivot, if you will, to what does the Fletcher Johnson look like of tomorrow? So I know you said that the city is going through a disposition process, and for all of you out there, we'll kind of save you the mumbo jumbo technical spiel of what that kind of disposition process looks like. But you know, part A is that there's a much larger comprehensive plan that is put together by some folks in government, commissioners and analysts, etc. Right? They put together a comprehensive plan. They say, this is what we envision. This is what we think the city will look like. These are areas that are open and ripe for development. This is land that can be dispersed of or disposed of. And then they put that plan together, and over a period of years, they work to implement aspects of that plan. From there, as needed, that comprehensive plan is updated, revised, budgets, etc., in order to fit the need. And so now I know that Fletcher Johnson is part of the mayor's, the DC mayor, Mayor Bowser's comprehensive plan, and that's why the land is being disposed of. Kind of the Twitter version of what's kind of happening right now.
Right. You know, and I guess you definitely want to tell your users too that the Department of General Services has also verified that the government no longer needs that property for any public use, and that's why it's gonna in the Cliff Notes version you got. Yeah.
So what does the future of Fletcher Johnson look like? Like, what's the plan for the development? Like you said, it's more than 15 acres, right? So that's like a lot of potential green space. Like, are we getting Starbucks? You know, is there, am I not going to have to drive 20 minutes, 19.23 minutes to go to Wegmans? Just like give us a sense of what's going to happen there. Because as you know, with any large stretch of land, God is doing a whole lot, but he's not making no new land and he's not changing the hearts of politicians. So with this big lump sum of land, what can we expect? What can the community of DC expect?
Well, can I start off with this statement that although we have a we have a plan right now. The Great Cordona Partners have provided a proposal, which isn't bad, right? They provided a proposal that outlines some different elements of what they would like to see there, right? And I think that the Fletcher Johnson Task Force is doing a great job working with the Advisory Neighborhood Commission of 70 to really hammer home some of the key things that we need in this community to have a grocery store. I mean, Starbucks will be nice. It'll be cute. I wonder, if we will have a Starbucks, but to have other type of shops that we can have in our community, so we're not traveling all the way over to Maryland or all the way across the river deeper into DC. So currently, what they're
I can tell a real quick story. So I had just fed my dogs and they'd come upstairs and I had gone over to H Street and I decided to treat myself. And I was like, I try not to spend money like going out and eating food. Like we try to cook at the house. And so I was like, I'm going to treat myself. I had closed a few extra deals. Like I was excited.
Brandon, you be cooking?
I cook in spirit, but not in truth.
Okay. You probably can throw down. I know. I mean, I feel like you probably can throw down though for real though.
Again, and you know what? So I am a really good cook, but
I believe that.
My husband does most of the cooking. So I am very fortunate from that standpoint, but I also always get the side eye of why you're not cooking. Like, and I'm like, Thanksgiving and Christmas. There's so many different things you eat between Thanksgiving and Christmas. I'm tired. I need the rest of the year to recover. So I don't think that's gonna go over long, but yeah. So on to the point. The story I was telling was I had decided to get kava, and kava they have those lamb meatballs.
Yeah, yes. What you about the lamb
and
meatballs?
I get the half and half, and so I was about to mess it up. I get here, I had just fed the dogs. They came upstairs. And my one dog, I got a giant Tosa. So he's a puppy. He's 2.5 years old, but he's 120 pounds. And so when he stands up, I'm 5'11". We see each other face to face. Like he's big. And so he goes and he sticks his nose in my food. And I was livid. And I wasn't mad at him. I wasn't mad that he did what he did. For a minute, I was gonna be nasty, and I was like, if I pray again, I can eat it. But I didn't. I threw it away. And in that moment, do you know what upset me the most? That it was cold outside. I was going to have to drive 20 minutes to get to Cava. Then on H Street, spend 10 minutes trying to find a
park.
And then you have the meter maids. Yeah, I was going to use another term, but yeah, the meter maids, and they come out of nowhere. They're like cartel agents. They just pop up out of nowhere, like, and start handing their tickets. So I got all tickets because I'm looking at one right now from the last time I was on 8th Street, and so then I had to get the food and then drive back another 20. I'm like, that's a whole hour just for me to go get what I really wanted.
By the time you get home, it's gonna be cold too because all the traffic just getting back home. Like
my point. So it would be amazing if even if it wasn't a Starbucks, right? Like I can get whole beans from anywhere, right? I mean, Trader Joe's would probably be better because our consumption of wine is pretty high. But what can the community expect? Because intrinsically with that comes enhanced opportunity for value increase in the for your properties, especially if people can now not only walk to Benning Road Metro Station, but they can also walk and get their groceries. And I think we have a fair number of elderly people in our community, and
Right.
that
And they're
access.
proposing to bring more seniors to the site currently, in the current proposal as it stands.
Oh, really?
Like,
Like a senior center?
yeah,
Okay.
they want to put like a senior. So we need more clarification what it means. So what they propose it or how they term it is termed as an assisted living / senior. So we're not exactly sure if it's going to be like an assisted living facility or it's just senior apartments. I think, those are the things that we have to continue to work with the developer to get concrete answers on. And we have to make sure that before the land disposition agreement is signed between the deputy mayor for planning economic development and the developer, that we fully understand these terms, right? So to go back to your question, like, can we, will we see a Starbucks? My concern is this: on that 15.26 acres of land, they are only currently offering 20,000 square feet of commercial or retail space. With 20,000 square feet.
Like, how much is 20,000 square feet? Because a 20,000 square foot house is pretty big. So 20,000 square feet retail space, what are we talking?
So, the perfect example is Benco.
That lot up there,
that lot right there off of East Capitol and Benning Grove, right across the street from the shrimp boat.
Oh, yeah.
Benco is approximately 20,000 square feet. From the American Best Wings to the parking lot and to the other end where the laundromat used to be, which is now the Ken's Beauty Supply Store. That's 20,000 square feet. I mean, I want to say that we can get those things that you're mentioning that we all want. Wouldn't it be great if we had a Cabo over here? I love me some Cabo. Like, them lamb meatballs is the business. And like, those hummus sauce, like, I want that. And I want to be able to walk out my house and get that. I would even like to walk out my house and not go to a liquor store for a drink, but maybe go to like a small little bar or full size family restaurant. Right. I would even like to just take my little canvas bags and be cute, walk down the hill and go get me fresh produce and all those other things and come home. But you can't do that with 20,000 square feet. In fact, with 20,000 square feet, what's probably going to end up happening is we're going to have a Benco 2, Benco squared. It's going to be probably like some convenience store, some liquor store.
Which is the last thing, quite frankly, we need in the community.
Because another carryout.